Welcome to Sivako, the road to Avatar. My name is Shaun Alexander, and I will be your guide to the world of Pandora and beyond. So today I am joined by a very special guest. Special guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
I would. Thank you, Sean. My name's Jeff, and my Twitter handle is @JeffCockwell. I'm a big Avatar fan. I also run a Doctor Who podcast as well, which is called at Who C2C. I'm quite well versed in podcasting as well.
It's so exciting to have you on.
Thank you.
Your podcast is great. I'm on the verge of Doctor Who. I always come dip in and out quite a bit.
Right.
But the podcast is really enjoyable for me to listen to because I feel like I'm get a little catch up each time to figure out where things have been going.
Yeah,
And
well, we do episode reviews as well, and we've been very lucky to be able to talk to some of the cast and crew from the show as well. So hopefully the podcast appeals not just to Doctor Who fans as well, but people who might want to get into acting or directing for screen and stuff like that. So we're trying to kind of appeal to as many people as we can with it, and maybe convert a few fans on the way.
so, yeah, I'll ask you a couple questions. The first of which is, how did you get into Avatar?
Okay. I've been a James Cameron fan since I was probably, I don't know, 12, something like that, when I watched Terminator 2, when I was too young to watch Terminator 2, ran at a friend's house, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I went away from that and I wanted to find out more about Arnie. And so I started looking into his other films and things like that, and I kept seeing directed by James Cameron. And I thought, well, what does this mean? So I kind of investigated that a bit more, and then I went to college and did a filmmaking course because I kind of fallen in love with making films and sort of wanted to become Cameron, really. So when Titanic came out, it was a big event, and then we waited 11 years or something for Avatar to come out. So I was already kind of going to go and watch it anyway because it was a Cameron film. But I went up to Wimbledon, where the nearest IMAX was to me at the time, to go see it on opening night. And probably like you as well, Sean, and many other people listening, I was just blown away by it, and my head was just buzzing for days afterwards. With all the stuff that I'd seen, and I think obviously many years have passed since then, and I've watched the film countless numbers of times, and I think the reason it appeals so much to me is great characters first and foremost, and an incredible world, but also it's a great mix of science fiction and fantasy stuff, which are two genres I really like, and I think Cameron's meshed it all together wonderfully, my journey into being an Avatar fan started a long time ago, really, in a roundabout way.
I feel like, yeah, that sort of classic sort of seeing it when it first arrived, seeing it in either IMAX. I mean, to be fair, seeing it in any format is a great time
Yeah.
at the pictures. I think the re-release proved that.
Yes.
And yeah, I just feel like everyone has that same experience of feeling like transported, and then just having days, weeks, months afterwards being like, man, just how did you do it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you're right. Also, like, just making something like that. Like, whenever I watch Titanic, I always think, the work and the achievement in pulling something like that off on that scale, both in terms of the script and the effects and the sets and just the whole thing is just unbelievable. And Cameron is just a master at it. And I think what's coming in the way of water is going to blow us away, from what we've seen so far, and we know there's an awful lot more still to come. It's going to be incredible.
You know what? That's a perfect chance to go into the next question, which is, how are we feeling about the way of water? Obviously, we are less than a month away now at this
Yeah.
point.
God, I am just, well, on one hand, I'm beyond excited, and on the other hand, it doesn't feel real, really, in a way, because, like you said, we're less than a month away now, and we're racing towards opening night, and we've waited a long time, haven't we? And there was rumors about the film, and then they announced they were going to make the sequels, and then they were delayed, and it sort of felt like maybe it was never going to happen, and now we're almost here, and yeah, I'm so excited for it. I've waited a very, very long time, and it just doesn't kind of feel real that I'm going to get to go back to the cinema and go back to Pandora, and going back to watch the Avatar re-release recently kind of was quite special as well, to do it all again like that, and to think I'm going to get to do this, brand new in another couple of months' time. So yeah, how about you? How are you feeling?
It's crazy for me, honestly. Well, because I'm sort of so when Avatar came out, I was 17. I wasn't. I was like, I like film a lot, but I wasn't that deep into it. I didn't go. I went to university to study film a few years later, like 5 years later, and yeah, I feel like at that point of how old I was, I didn't really like understand sort of the sort of how big this became at the time. And obviously now, like I'm turning 30 this next week, and it's sort of crazy to think, yeah, like this is like a huge part of like of how how long I've waited for another one to come out. And yeah, like the excitement for it, I can feel it growing day by day. I feel like every so often we're just getting like little extra tidbits, like extra photo here or there, and it just and nothing has made me worried. Everything has only made me more excited.
Yeah, I feel the same. I've never had any doubts about Cameron. And when Titanic was coming out, people said it was going to flop, and it didn't. Then when Avatar was coming out, people said it was going to flop, and it didn't. And they're saying the same thing again here. And look at the guy's track record. And like my wife said the other day, she said, "Oh, surely he can't make a sequel better than the first one." And I said, "Do you have any knowledge of Cameron's films?" And yeah, I have, absolutely no worries at all about what it's going to be like. And I'll tell you something else that's been really special recently. He's actually been able to go out and buy something with Avatar on it, because there's been nothing, has there? Really, since the first film. And the day that the Lego sets came out, I went up to London with my wife and one of our twin girls, and we took her to the theatre, and then we went to the Lego shop afterwards. And we'd planned the trip months before I knew that it was Lego Avatar Day. My wife was like, "Is this deliberate?" And I said, "No, no, of course not." But going into the shop and buying, a box of Lego Avatar, I was, more excited than I probably should have been about it. But it's just great to see, something that people had said online that no one remembered and no one cared about. It's being proven wrong daily at the moment, and there was a growing fan base for it again, new people, old people who are kind of getting back into it. And yeah, it's a really exciting time.
That's something really interesting, which is I do find that I'm speaking to a lot of people online who are, some of them were literally like 4 or 5 when the first movie came out,
Mm,
and they're really excited for this new one coming out.
yeah.
And that's exciting. Like I love to see that there's like a whole new fan base for it, because yeah, it's kind of one of those films that I think is just going to last lifetimes, in terms of
Yeah.
like people will just go back and revisit it because it can't age at this point.
Yes, yeah, you're right. And a quite a nice little story is, I showed my kids some of the first one a couple of months ago when it was still on Disney, and one of the twins wasn't really that fussed, and my son wasn't, but the other twin, she came up to me a couple of days later and she said, "Daddy, can we watch Blue Aliens again?" And I said, "What do you mean blue aliens?" And she said, "The tall ones in the jungle." And I said, "Oh, you mean Avatar? Yeah, yeah, that's it." And she's asked me a number of times. We sat down and watched bits of it, and so that's been quite fun. They're 4.5, and obviously I've been selective of which bits they've seen, but it's really appealed to her. And my son has started to get into it a little bit now. We watched some recently, and he asked me, "Are they real?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, the avatars, are they real in this?" And I thought, "Oh, what do I say?" So I just went, "Yeah, yeah, they are." But it still looks that good after all this time, and is convincingly real.
Yeah, that's something that's so fantastic to hear, and like to have that sort of like personal experience to be like, look, I've shown like a new generation it,
Y-
and they honestly believe this technology exists, this
Mm,
that avatars and the Navi are real.
yeah,
That shows how amazing of a job that Cameron and the whole team did.
yeah, yeah. And the new one and the other sequels, they're going to be kind of like the equivalent of PlayStation 5 graphics to PS1, which is what Avatar would be, I think, in comparison. With the advancement on it and everything.
That's crazy to think, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
when you look, well, we saw the re-release and it still looks fantastic. There's
Oh
no
yeah.
denying that. And to think that they're improving on that, and we have
Mm.
seen the footage at the end of the re-release. We've seen the trailers and teaser, and it does look better. And it's
Yeah.
crazy to think that they somehow did improve on it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, how did they do it? Yeah, well, when I saw the re-release, I had the swimming scene at the end of it. Which one did you get?
I had the Loak with the Tolkien.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, it was unbelievable seeing it. The detail in it and the depth in the shots as well. And then when I saw Wakanda Forever last week, they had the full trailer in 3D before it. And not kidding, people in the cinema went, "Oh," and they were making, they were reacting to it and making noises to it. And same thing happened when the teaser was shown before Doctor Strange earlier in the year. There was a palpable kind of positive reaction in the cinema, which I took to be quite a good sign.
Yeah, I think that kind of shows, especially when, yeah, you can hear that audience reaction. I very really rarely hear that for a trailer. You
Yeah.
get it for the movie or now and then.
Yes.
Us in the UK, we're not very expressive for
No,
movies,
no, no.
not like America.
You're right, and it is happening a little bit more. I remember I went to see Endgame at a midnight showing, and people were cheering and clapping at that. And it doesn't happen, in a normal screening, like a midnight one. You're all fans and all geeks there, so you can kind of let go, and it's like being at a concert, with the cheering and stuff. But yeah, it doesn't happen quite the same way over here that it does in America, does it?
No, I think maybe I'm kind of happy about that. Some of it's a little over the top, I think, but
Yeah, yeah. Some of those reaction videos you can get on YouTube to stuff, they're quite good fun. But yeah, I wouldn't want it happening all the time.
not for your first viewing
No,
experience.
yeah, yeah.
I think that's the perfect time. Let's get on to our main topic today, which is that we're going to talk about we're doing a little retrospective of Zoe Saldana, talking about her career before, after Avatar. So we've both picked out a few different films from her filmography, and obviously we'll talk about Neytiri. And yeah, I think best place to start is I'll throw it over to you because we both chose two films each, or two characters each, I should say, as she has a habit of being in a lot of franchises. It seems.
Yeah, hasn't she? I mean, would you go as far to say that she's the modern queen of sci-fi? I mean, she's got obviously Avatar, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Star Trek as well.
I honestly, it's when you look at that lineup, it's hard to argue against it
Yeah,
in terms of, you always see like people like Samuel L. Jackson mentioned in terms of like how big their like blockbuster influence is.
mm,
But I think Zoe Saldana's like this sort of like the quiet on the outside, like gonna beat you all sort of thing, because she has the Guardians, she has Avengers, Star Trek, and if anything, Avatar is the one that sets her apart from the rest.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's quite interesting what you said there because she's in these huge films, and she is in theory a big star, but because she's digitally blue in Avatar, green body paint in Guardians, and herself in Star Trek visually, she's possibly not that recognizable because she looks so different in her films. You know what I mean? She's not like a sort of instantly recognizable face, because she gets very immersed in the roles, I think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what? That sort of made me just think as well, like how with Andy Serkis, a lot of people don't realize he's a lot of the roles that he
Yeah,
plays.
yeah,
So obviously he was just playing a character in like Black Panther,
mm,
but obviously he's like Snoke, he's Caesar, he's Gollum.
yeah,
His list is crazy. And I think Zoe has a sort of similar situation that, yeah, because she not only transforms herself physically and looks different, but also she's so immersed into those characters, she seems like a different person each time.
yes, yeah, Yeah, she does, and I think she seems really sort of committed and dedicated to all the stuff that she does, and I don't know about you, but when I kind of like a performance a lot by someone in a film, I like to kind of investigate their other stuff and start following the career, and I did the same with Zoe here and with Sam Worthington as well. I really enjoyed him in Avatar, and it's been quite interesting seeing how their careers have diverged, haven't they, and how differently they've gone.
Mm.
And he was kind of poised to be really big at one point, and a couple of films kind of let him down a little bit, but then he moved into doing some really interesting stuff like Man on a Ledge and The Shack, and various other bits and pieces. And she's continued to do kind of a lot more high profile stuff. So what were the films that you picked out about her?
So, if I remember correctly, I picked her role in Star Trek, I think,
Yeah.
as Uhura. But I also picked. So, you know what? Let's start with the Star Trek one because it came
Okay.
out the same year as Avatar, the
Yeah.
first Star Trek, which is crazy to me. Like that she had both of them in the same year.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't. She must have shot Avatar first because of all the
Yeah,
post
bound to,
work on
right?
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was going to say, what did you think of that first Trek film?
I think the first one is probably my favorite of the three. Although the third one is like I think is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that third one. So I really liked the first one. I quite like J.J. Abrams stuff,
Hmm.
although I wish he'd stop remaking TV shows for into features and do something original now. And I do like his use of lens flare, which a lot of people will take the mick out of him for. But yeah, I really enjoyed that first Star Trek. I think Chris Pine is quite good. He's quite charismatic, and Carl Urban and Zoe fitted in it really nicely. And the second one with Cumberbatch was all right. I wasn't sort of as taken by it, and yeah, I don't think I watched the third one in the end because Abrams didn't do that one, did he? And
No,
uh,
he didn't. I think it was Justin Lin.
yeah, it does Fast and Furious films. Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you liked the first one best, did you?
I'm between the first and the third. I will admit it's been a little while since I've caught up with them fully. I need to have a good rewatch of them. I've definitely uh, I've definitely seen the first one the most out of the three. I don't think I've
Yeah,
even gone back to Into Darkness at all. And I think the main reason for that was because it felt like it relied so heavily on the big moment, which was that anyone was ever talking about in the build up to it was
yeah,
obviously, he's Khan, Benedict Cumberbatch was playing Khan.
yeah, yeah. Which was almost obvious, really, when you kind of look at it, wasn't it? That was what they were going to do with it. Um, but I thought Zoe, she fitted in really well in it, and I've never really been a Star Trek fan, so I was kind of able to come to it. I went to watch it just because it looked good. You know what I mean? It
Mm.
wasn't like, oh, hey, here's a new Trek film. I must go see it. So I kind of came at it fresh, and so I don't know whether she was kind of mimicking, the original Uhura in her performance, or homaging it or anything. But yeah, I again just really enjoyed her in it.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, it's a big cast for that movie and quite
Mm,
an impressive cast as well.
yeah.
So you mentioned Chris Pine, Carl Urban, Zachary Quinto, Spock as well,
Oh yeah, I
and
forgot he was in it. Yeah,
Simon Pegg's in it. I love
yeah.
him in it, and I think she really works really well in these ensemble casts.
Yes, yeah,
I think she brings a really good energy to it. I think, especially because opposite, because her and Spock have a thing going on,
yeah,
and I think that sort of give and take sort of thing they got going on, she has to do a lot of the work there. If I'm honest, Spock
yeah.
is a bit of a can feel a bit one note at times, and I think that's just part of the
Yes,
character.
yeah. He's quite a closed book, isn't he? In
Yeah.
a way. Yeah,
So
yeah,
she has to bring a lot more to it, a lot of energy to it, and she does. And it is, yeah, like I thought it was so interesting that she did Star Trek and Avatar the same year, and also we mentioned Sam Worthington earlier. He did Terminator Salvation and Avatar the
oh
same year, so they
yeah,
both
yeah.
did like big franchises
Mm,
outside of Avatar that year.
yeah,
So clearly, people were listening when James Cameron like signed them up. They were like,
yeah.
"Oh, we need to get on these guys quick."
That's it exactly. Yeah, because didn't Sam do Terminator, and then he got Avatar off the back of it, was it?
No, it's
Was
well,
it the other way
Terminator and
around?
Avatar came out the same year, I think. I think they were
Right.
both 2009. So let me double check. Actually, I'll do a quick one. I'm sure it was. Yeah, 2009. So
Yeah.
again, I think it was just purely off the bat that they heard he was cast in Avatar, and they were like,
Right.
"Yeah, let's
Yeah. So pick the timing on it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I enjoyed Salvation. It was quite a good just action film, I thought, but it wasn't amazing, was it?
mm,
It was fine though, um, but yeah, it was enjoyable enough anyway. Yeah. Yeah, so I really liked Zoe in Star Trek. Are they going to do any more? Do you think there keeps being talk about a fourth, isn't there? And like, or
yeah."
Tarantino doing one or something?
Well, I don't know if the Tarantino one was ever going to be the fourth one. I feel like that was always going to be like a spin off own
Right.
separate thing because I feel like if you try to suddenly to do a Tarantino as a fourth of a series which is already very well established, you're suddenly risking losing a lot of the fun Tarantino
Yeah,
aspects you're gonna get.
yeah, yeah. It would be a bit of a weird fit, wouldn't it? Suddenly, yeah.
Yeah, but we you never know. When these things always just reappear out of nowhere, at some point down the line, we probably will
Yes.
end up with another one.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the films I picked was Columbiana.
Hmm.
Have you seen that one?
You know what? I didn't get a chance to, but I've been watching like all the behind the scenes and
Okay.
interviews of it. So I found it. So I've got like a different perspective on it. But from what I
Right.
can tell, it looks like the sort of movie I'd enjoy.
Yeah, so she basically is like an assassin in it, and she ends up um, she works for her uncle as a hitman, and then she does it kind of investigates vigilante murders in the evenings and things, and it's just an action film, a bit like films like Peppermint that Jennifer Garner was in, or Lucy with Scarlett Johansson, kind of female led stuff, and really nicely done. And Saldana's quite a kind of quite a moody character in it, and there's some really good fight scenes in it. I've watched it a couple of times, and she can really do the kind of physical side of things. When she's playing Neytiri, a lot of her movements are really big, aren't they? And kind of, there's quite a lot of sort of, not ballet necessarily, but you know what I mean, big graceful kind of movements and stuff to it. And she brought a lot of that to the role in Columbiana as well. So yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen it, and is looking for a bit of good kind of butt kicking and gunfighting and stuff like that, I recommend it. And I think she's doing another one for it, according to IMDb. Just have a quick look. Yeah, it says it's announced, so that's interesting. It's not necessarily a film that I thought, oh yeah, there's got to be another one for that. But if they're going to do one, it's a bit like John Wick. Actually, it's kind of it's pre John Wick female kind of John Wick type stuff. But if they're going to do another one, I'll be there to watch that because it was great fun. And a lot of the time that's just what films should be. Really, hasn't got the best story, but it's fun.
And I found an interesting little tidbit to link to The Way of Water is that Cliff Curtis is in it as her uncle, which is a little connection to The Way of Water as he is
Yep,
playing
Tonamori.
Tonomari.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so and he was in was it Fear the Walking Dead that he was doing, and he left that to do Avatar, didn't he?
I believe so.
Yeah, yeah. I've only seen maybe the
Yes, it
first
was
series
Fear
of
the
that
Walking
one.
Dead.
Yeah, yeah. So I quite like it as well when an actor or actress that you like and did something in another film, did with another actor or actress in a film, and then years later they pair up again in something, and a bit like Winslet coming back to do Way of Water with Cameron, that's quite nice.
It feels special in that sort of way. That yeah, that working relationship clearly was good.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they may have had difficulties, with various things doing Titanic and stuff, but they've obviously, got a friendship and a good relationship there enough to come back and, learn to hold your breath underwater for 7 minutes or whatever it was that Winslet did.
I was going to say, it sounds like this time round, Cameron's a little bit he's mellowed out in his more
Yes,
recent
a
years,
little
which
bit,
is
yeah.
great to hear
Yeah, yeah.
because he sounded like quite the personality, I should say.
Yes,
Early
that's
days.
a tactful way of putting it. Yeah, yeah. He was quite notorious for being quite tough with people, and he once said he wants to run on set, and if you're going to walk, then he's going to call you up on it. And he's acknowledged that he was hard work sometimes, and definitely has mellowed a bit in recent years. But yeah, it was kind of all part of his legend, and I sometimes wonder how much that stuff is exaggerated, and maybe not entirely true, but yeah, it's certainly kind of associated with him, isn't it?
Yeah, I wonder if I think there might be some truth in that to be
Yeah,
like, oh, it's like exaggerated for the Hollywood glitz and glam of
yeah,
it all. I if because I honestly I would be surprised if Kate Winslet ever wanted to work with him after the way it sounds like Titanic went.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah, and and like Sigourney Weaver's worked with him a number of times, hasn't she? And so they've obviously got past any difficulties when they were doing Aliens, and they've developed a friendship there and stuff. And I think it's great that he has certain people that he keeps going back to. And I might have tweeted about this, or maybe, but I do you remember seeing the photo of Schwarzenegger on at the Avatar set?
Yeah, he was on the set, and I know he did some training with Jack Champion playing Spider.
That's right.
So
Yeah, I've seen that bit of picture as well. Yeah, so I'm hoping that we'll get a Navi Arnie at some point. Maybe because there's got to be casting stuff for the other sequels they haven't announced yet.
yeah, like that's kind of exciting to think that we might get Arnie. To be fair, this is the thing. Arnie could play either side.
Yeah,
He'd
yeah,
be
he
good in
could
either
do.
role. I could see him
Yeah,
as like a Navi leader. I could see him as a RDA cigar chomping badass.
yeah. Maybe he could be Quaritch's boss that comes to Pandora. That would be cool, wouldn't it?
I
Yeah,
wouldn't mind that.
yeah. So, what was the other film, Zoe's, that you picked?
So for me, I picked her other one. I picked was the Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl,
Yeah.
which I found really interesting because I feel like a lot of people forget she's in it.
'Cause it's quite a small part, really, isn't it?
It's not the biggest part, but
Mm,
I was watching back some interviews that she'd done speaking about the role, and this was sort of her like big step into sort of doing
yes.
blockbusters for her. And it sounds like she had an awful time with it.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, it sounded
Yeah.
like it was dreadful. The seas were awful, trying to work with the weather,
Yeah.
and she mentioned that Jerry Bruckheimer had actually apologized to her since then to be
Yes,
like,
I
"Sorry, you had
saw
such
that.
a bad time."
Yeah, and she said that he obviously remembered her, and saw her subsequently talk about it, and kind of reached out to apologise, and that kind of said a lot about him and things, because Bruckheimer, he's known for great big bombastic films and stuff, isn't he? But he's very successful, and but obviously kind of a decent guy, with it. So yeah, I thought that was really nice that he kind of apologized for all of that, to her. But yeah, I was when I saw the first Pirates, I mean, I didn't know who she was, and it was some time after that. That was pointed out that she was in it, and it's quite fun going back to seeing people, big stars early, appearances and stuff, isn't it?
Mm,
And then
that's so fun.
yeah, see how they then the path they've taken to get to where they are, years later. Yeah, I am. What do you think of the Pirates films?
Overall, the first three I think is some of the best like blockbusters that we have in terms of uh, Gore Verbinski just went for it. He did not. It feels like he had no interference almost in a way. I suppose the only interference I can see is that the studio might have been like, please add more Jack Sparrow. And I feel like that's maybe the only. I think that's the detriment, and I think that 4 and 5 have proven that since that the Pirates of the Caribbean films need less Jack Sparrow, if anything.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've enjoyed them a lot, and I think Depp is really good in them. And for me, in the first three, certainly he kind of largely powers it. I wasn't that keen on Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley's characters in there. I think because he was so kind of larger than life and flamboyant, he kind of overshadowed them quite a bit. And the fourth and fifth ones were good. As I'm talking with you, I kind of can't really remember what happened in them, other than I enjoyed them, but I've never watched them since. But they're good fun. The first three certainly there's some great visuals and stuff in there, and like you said, Verbinski just kind of got to do what he wanted with it, really. I think, and they are good. Yeah.
And I think when you consider they've been talking about doing another Pirates of the Caribbean movie and speaking, and I think Margot Robbie was the name that they had banded around for it a lot of the time, and that's not happening anymore from what people have been saying. But what if they want to go back and bring back Zoe Saldana's character as the lead? I think that's a good idea, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I think she could easily carry that, and it's certainly it's one of those worlds that I think has got a lot of potential within it for for other stories that don't have to involve Captain Jack.
Mm.
So yeah, it would be good to go back to it, and certainly that kind of pirate stuff is always good fun. So yeah, hopefully they might do something with it at some point.
It's really interesting to me that no one else has really been able to really crack that sort of pirates genre. I think they perfected it straight away,
Yeah,
really, with like this sort of larger than life swashbuckling that they did then. I think it's been hard to find anything even close to that.
yeah, I think that sort of made it fun, and the supernatural element worked quite well with it. As I think there's a danger of pirate stuff to be quite ironically dry and a bit boring, despite the sort of inherent fun that you could potentially have with it. But they definitely captured it well. And in fact, talking of Pirates of the Caribbean, I just remember that we spoke to Kevin McNally on our podcast. So he played Gibbs in the Pirates films, who was Jack's best friend in it, and he had a fairly large part in Doctor Who last year, and he was great fun to talk to, and he told us that he'd been going up for a number of auditions for American films, and he kept not getting them, and he was sort of at the point where he just couldn't be bothered with it anymore, and he was at home drinking wine one day, and he was supposed to go to an audition, and he didn't want to do it, and his friend said, you really should, because you never know what will happen. So his friend took him to the audition, and he claimed he was a little bit drunk when he went, and it was for Pirates of the Caribbean, and of course he got it, and it changed his entire career. And he said, I think it was because I was a bit tipsy and kind of fitted the character. But imagine if he hadn't gone, someone else would have got the part, of course. But it just kind of shows that you need to seize every opportunity, because you never know what will come from it.
Mm. And you know what? I find that's interesting as well because Zoe's been talking about that a lot in her interviews, where she says she feels incredibly lucky with the roles she's been able to like play and the people she's been able to work with.
Yeah,
Because it's quite an impressive list,
yeah, it
the sort of
really
people
is.
she works with.
Yeah, and she does some nice stuff as well, in terms of she'll do a big blockbuster thing, and then she'll move into something a little bit smaller, a bit more kind of indie in a way,
Mm.
and more character based perhaps. And so she's sort of getting to do a bit of best of both worlds, really, on that side of things. In fact, the other film that I picked was I Kill Giants, which was more of a kind of independent, kind of, it's a fantasy film. Have you seen that one?
I haven't. I do. It's always one of them ones that's been on my list to watch, and
Yeah.
I just haven't had the chance to get round to it.
Well, I remember I saw that she was announced for it, and I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. I'll check it out. And it's about a girl who goes and fights giants, but you're sort of never quite sure really if they're fictional or not. And I remember it had come out, but I couldn't find it on Blu-ray anywhere. And I think eventually I found it on Amazon Prime or something to watch. You know when a film comes out and it like doesn't necessarily get a massive release, and then it kind of becomes a bit tricky to find it anywhere. And eventually I got round to being able to watch it. And so Zoe plays the teacher at the school, who kind of takes a bit of a takes an interest in the main girl in it, and sort of tries to guide her and help her in life a little bit. So yeah, it's about this girl Barbara, and she has got problems at home. Her friends, and she hasn't got any friends, and her parents don't like her and stuff like this. So she goes into this world of fighting giants, and I found it quite it's not an action film at all. It's really kind of character driven stuff with some fantasy elements to it, and I found it surprisingly moving actually, and it's definitely worth a watch for something a bit different from Zoe.
It's one that I definitely need to catch up on because, yeah, her work is always really interesting. I'm always really interested by the different roles she takes.
Yeah, I just sort of I enjoy watching her. I've got a number of actors like that, and even if the film they're in isn't necessarily great for whatever reason, I'll always have enjoyed them. And so and that's again the most important thing I think to have had a good time watching a film.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. I think there's just some actors who do have that energy about them that no
Yeah.
matter what, they will give a good performance, and it will at least make the experience feel worthwhile
Yeah.
experiencing.
Well, it's like going back to Schwarzenegger. He's not the world's best actor, is he? But he's always entertaining, and even in some of his lesser films, they're watchable because he's good fun in them.
So we got your last one as well, which I think probably is. This is the thing. We're probably at this point where it's arguably maybe her more famous role now.
So what? What Gamora?
Yes.
Yeah. Would I say it's her? Yeah. I think. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Actually, certainly at the moment, I'd say give it another 30 days maybe, and that might change. But because obviously Guardians came out after Avatar, and obviously the MCU has exploded, within the time since Avatar. So yeah, I'd say Gamora by and large would be Zoe's kind of her iconic and most identifiable role. And I really like the Guardians films. I like the MCU as well, and I like James Gunn's stuff. He does good character work. It's all a little bit kind of bonkers and off the wall, and but there's still an awful lot of heart to them. If anyone's seen Guardians 2, you'll know what I mean. With the end of that film. And again, I really like Zoe in it. I think she bounces off Chris Pratt really nicely, and working with the rest of the team there, particularly two characters that are digital as well, and not necessarily there. And I think her character, her Gamora, is probably a bit different to the comic one, who was supposed to be the world's most dangerous, universe's most dangerous assassin, and she's not sort of that kind of badass in the films, but she's tough in a sort of in a slightly different way. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I like the way she kind of softened across the films, and her relationship with Nebula changed, and they actually started to kind of fix things up again at the end. And Gunn said that the whole series of films was kind of about dysfunctional family, really, and I think that's very true and quite noticeable. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the third one. I'm glad that they brought Gunn back for it, and obviously with what happened in Endgame and Infinity War, Gamora is not the same character she was at the end of Guardians 2, so it's going to be interesting to see where they take things for her, which I think will give her a new challenge.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Yeah, because there was so much like progression for the character
Yeah.
in the first two Guardians films, and obviously Infinity War. I'm not even going to put spoilers. There's no need to.
No,
Everyone's
no,
seen
if you
Infinity
haven't
War.
watched it by now, where have you been?
Yeah, Gamora died. Surprise!
Yeah.
And then came back
Spoiler.
in Endgame from a different timeline.
Yes.
And so yeah, like it leaves us in a position of uh, how do they handle it in Volume 3, and I
Yeah.
think that's going to be such an interesting way because they are wrapping up a lot of stories in this one. It feels like because
Yeah.
they've kind of said this is the end of this version of the Guardians.
Yeah.
So there's obviously Gamora's, and in probably intertwined with that is Nebula and Star Lord's
Yeah.
stories are going to be wrapped up in some way. So it'll be really interesting to see how they want to go with it. And
Yeah.
I trust James Gunn to handle it. I think the Guardians films are probably they're two of my favorites from the Marvel ones, and I think Volume 3 is definitely my most excited one for next year.
Yeah, me too. I think. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it, and there's the Christmas special one coming. very soon, actually. Maybe next week.
Yes,
I think
that is
that's
next
released.
week.
Yeah. So yeah, looking forward to that. That's going to be silly fun. I can't believe they got Kevin Bacon in it.
I mean, this is it. This is the. I feel like this is the only way they could get away with it in a way.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I remember when Volume Two was coming. Well, they said they were making Volume Two. They were like, "Oh, Kevin Bacon's going to play like Ego, the Living Planet," which had also been kind of cool in some ways. But I think this is the better way to handle Peter Quill's obsession with Kevin Bacon and Footloose.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, it's going to be really, really good fun. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Saldana, and the films that we've talked about are all worth watching. So if anyone's listening, and they've seen something else that we haven't talked about that they recommend, I'd love to hear about it.
Mm.
And check some other stuff out. I'm always up for watching others.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it. I think there's a lot of other ones to talk about. We've obviously kind of handled quite a lot of the bigger ones,
yeah,
but there is plenty of like smaller films to see as well. So
yeah.
yeah, like if you have seen one and you feel like this is a you must watch this, let us know because yeah, I'm always happy to pick up on some extras.
Yeah.
Which brings us on nicely to the role of Neytiri, which is why we're here to speak about her, really. So let's start with her role in Avatar. I mean, it's ridiculously good, right?
Yeah, she's another classic Cameron strong female, but then as the film goes on, you discover this more sort of softer side to her, and she falls in love with Jake, and I'm really excited to see her being a mother now in the new film, and where that's gonna where they're going to take all of that. And since the first film came out, I've become a parent as well, so it immediately makes stuff in the new one. It kind of I can connect to it a lot more, and I like that they've kind of moved them on for it. But yeah, I thought that she played Neytiri with a sort of there's definitely something kind of alien about her, and in the way she talks, and not just the sort of tone of her voice, but the language as well, and the sort of the way she uses wording, and her physicality as well. And I think she's just a great strong character, and like I said, but she's got almost a kind of a human side to her, considering she's an alien, and it was fascinating watching her and Jake kind of grow close together in the film, and to see her being really protective of the family as well, and like kind of the bit where she screams at him, and you'll never be one of us and stuff. Every time I watch it, it's still really powerful, and she's just so good in that bit, and in all of it really. And I don't know about you, but the bit at the end when she goes into the container, when he's
Mm.
struggling to breathe, and she holds him, and he puts his hand on her face. It's such a beautiful scene, and also like whenever I watch a film, part of me's thinking like is engrossed in the story, and another part of me's thinking that's a cool shot. I wonder how they did that. And every time I watch that bit at the end of Avatar, I'm like, CG is so good in that scene, putting her in there, when she's digital with the real Sam and the real set. I'm always amazed at that bit.
Yeah, that's one of those moments, and I think it's a very underrated moment in the film.
Yeah,
And I think that's something we're going to see in the Way of Water, especially because obviously they've got Spider, who is going to be directly interacting with a lot of these avatars.
yeah,
I like the Navi, I should say. That yeah, we're going to see this sort of size difference and the way that human characters are interacting with the Navi,
yeah,
and for it to feel very tangible. And I think that's always a worry when it comes to like when you're integrating the two with
yeah.
like reality and virtual reality. It's really hard to like get that always to mesh. I know there's some very bad examples of things looking like they're completely shot well, as they mostly are, shot in completely two different places.
Yes, yeah,
But this is one of the if anyone's going to make it feel realistic and lived in, it's going to be Cameron and his
yeah.
team.
Well, there's that shot in the trailer where some of the kids are jumping across the the rock strings and stuff, in
Mm.
the Hallelujah Mountains, and Spider is jumping with them, and the whole scene is digital, and he's perfectly integrated into it. You know, it's absolutely real looking. So yeah, that's going to be fun seeing all that interaction between them. And also, if anyone's read the High Ground first book, you'll get a bit of an idea of where Spider is. What his relationship is like with the rest of the Sully family, won't you?
Mm. I know my friend discovering Pandora. He has done a lovely little video on all the juicy gossip from High Ground Volume One.
Have you read it yet?
I haven't. No, I am sadly waiting to see it. I'm going to see if I can get hold of all three before the film come out,
Yeah,
but I'm
they're supposed to
currently
be out
waiting.
before it, aren't they? Because it kind of leads into it. But I got to be honest, it's been, as I think Discovering Pandora will say as well, it's been hard work getting them. I couldn't order the first one on Amazon for the physical release. They never listed it like that, but they had the other two as physical. And then I got it from Forbidden Planet in the end, but it was delayed like 3 times. So I'm hoping they'll get the other two out before the film. Otherwise, it kind of misses that window a little bit. But it's really good, great artwork in it, and like with all the comics they've done, it's just good to go back to Pandora and see new stories, and it helps kind of get excitement built up for the future and what they're going to do with things.
And so, what do we feel like? What's going to happen with Neytiri? Obviously, I I am the very bad person who suggested the trailer was suggesting that maybe Neytiri is not going to make it.
So it came from you.
Well, I say it came from me. I saw people talking about it on Twitter first, but I'm
Right,
the first
okay.
person who made a video about it.
So that's interesting. So you mean the bit where Jake says to be is it strong heart, he says, and then she picks up the bow, and then they're standing there amongst all the fire and everything. I thought that we were going to get some real badass stuff from Neytiri. That's kind of what I took. It felt a bit like maybe something's happened and she's kind of not been defeated, but is sort of down on her knees, maybe kind of can't carry on, sort of thing. And Jake kind of gives her a bit of a pep talk to stand up, and that picking back up the bow and standing up, it could be quite a kind of powerful moment. And whatever's happened, because there's theories that one of the kids doesn't make it, isn't there? Neytiri's gonna kind of go for whoever's wronged the family. I think so. It's always interesting how, particularly with a trailer, when you're not really getting all the info, how people can interpret things differently. So yeah, I took that as like, oh yeah, she's gonna be going full out now for protecting the family and stuff. But I could be wrong. You could be
Oh,
right.
I'm more than hoping that I'm wrong. I this is a theory mostly based on the fact that I really don't want it to be right, and I've got this habit of like predicting something and it being the complete opposite. So it's a safety precaution.
If they did kill off Neytiri, yeah, that would suck, wouldn't it? I mean, it would certainly bring the kind of emotional side of things to the foreground. Yeah, I don't. How about you? I wouldn't want that. I don't think. In fact, I know I wouldn't.
For me, I wouldn't want it, but I could see how it could really like if Cameron was like, I want these stakes, I want you to be emotionally distraught. I want you to be going into the third one being like, how do we come back from this?
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Yes, it is, and yeah, I think for me, like I said about with kids and stuff, if one of the kids goes, anything I watch now where a child dies or is kidnapped or something like that, I find it really hard to watch. And so if one of their kids was to be killed or something, I think that might be more effective for on me, and then to see how Jake and Neytiri deal with that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think we're not going to get through it in one piece. I don't think
No, I
Um,
think we're now at the point where we know someone certainly of significance is going to die, but we
but there,
just
well, who? Yeah, there was that picture of Jake that they released where he's got the white paint on him, wasn't he? He's got big scratches on his face. which people were saying looks kind of ceremonial, like perhaps a funeral type, look. I kind of, when we go watch the film, like I want to know everything immediately. Like I wish I could, plug into the Matrix and just have it uploaded, because I kind of, I can't wait, but also I want to sit there and savor it all and take it all in. I'm hoping that I'll get a chance to go see it a couple of times in the cinema. It's it's harder when you've got kids and stuff like that. I saw the first film a lot over the course of about a year when it first came out, and I don't expect I'll be able to top that this time. But yeah, I'm hoping to go at least a second time over Christmas at some point.
I suppose the bonus with Avatar is it will be in the cinema for a good couple months. So
Yeah, in fact, I was talking to a dad at school yesterday, actually, because he said he would be up for seeing it, and I mentioned going to see it, and he works shifts in the police, and he said, "Oh, it might have to be the new year based on my shift pattern." And I said, "Oh, that should be fine. It will be on then, I'm sure." And it's been quite interesting actually as well, this talking to people out in the real world and mentioning the film, and that, oh, when's it out? I want to go see that. I love the first one, and it kind of completely contrasts a lot of what the online chatter was about the film, that no one remembers it, but people say to me, oh, what, when's the new one out? And I'm like, sometime in December. Like really, December 16th has been burnt into my mind for like a year now. But I need to play the obsession down a little bit. So yeah, it's just before Christmas sometime.
yes, it's someone, just go cinema around Christmas. You'll be fine. You'll find
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I can't tell you the exact date, but
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me is that Avatar. This is the thing with like fandoms at the minute, and I think it's interesting that all this seems to have spouted since Avatar's come out. Is that fandoms are like the main drawing point of like what is culturally relevant and what is is something popular, is whether it has a huge fandom. And Avatar doesn't have that level of fandom that say Marvel, Star Wars, DC has, but Avatar really appeals to the wider audience who are not online all the time, like like us.
Yeah,
And
that's it. I think you have to. Sorry to cut you off. I think you have to kind of look. The online world is obviously not the real world at all, and people that I've been talking to, like at the school gates and stuff, and the film comes up, they want to go see it. And one of the other parents, she said to me, I've seen that there's Lego Avatar. She said, I thought we could go halved on one of the sets, but then we'll have to argue about who has who. And I thought, but that says so much, that people, they remember it and they like it. And also, like, you've got Pandora at Disney World. They wouldn't have that if this film had no audience. And I think you're right. It's not as kind of vocally active online, but you can just see the change in things recently with the view count on the trailers, being so big, and like just discovering Pandora alone, their follower count has climbed massively recently, if you've seen, and I bet yours has as well, and your listeners and stuff. And people are sort of coming out and saying, yeah, I like it, and they're no longer kind of hiding and saying, oh no, I don't remember it anymore. So yeah, it's a great time to be a fan, and it's really nice to kind of meet other fans, and having been kind of on my own in it for so long, and now actually the people I knew were out there are out there, and now everyone's kind of finding each other and stuff, which is great.
yeah, and I think that's the most exciting part is, yeah, we're coming together for something to celebrate, and
Yeah.
to be able to celebrate a whole new movie and hopefully sequels beyond that as well.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
was going to say. It's not just one. We've got, hopefully another four. So, we've got a long time, of this ahead of us, which is great. So, all being well, we've got to make sure we buy lots of tickets so it makes money and they make more.
thank you so much for coming on. It's been such a pleasure. So, where's the best place for people to find you?
So my personal Twitter is at Jeff Cockwell, which is GEOFF, and my surname is COCKWYLL. So yeah, Avatar fans, come say hi. Quite often chat about the film. And then my Doctor Who podcast is at Who C2C, which is Who Corner to Corner. So if you're into Doctor Who at all, or want to hear from actors and directors and people like that, then check that out as well.
And yeah, thank you for everyone for listening today, and enjoy the last month before we have a new Avatar film.
Yes, not long to go. And if you'll have me, Sean, it'd be great to come back and talk about it when we've seen it and,
I'm gonna have an
dive into
exciting
it.
New Year plan of everyone just coming on to just basically talk about the film.
Great.
It'll be a good. It's gonna be a good year next year, I imagine.
Yes, yeah, there's going to be a lot to talk about.
I can just hope. All right, yes, everyone, have a good day, and speak to you again soon. Bye.